the channel opens and the signal is clear. Welcome to this transmission, welcome to the field of remembrance. And I tell you, something is about to end. Something is about to end. Something's ending, and you might not even know that you signed the contract for this in the first place. Yes, beloved, there are contracts we are living by, and we make these contracts with different consciousnesses before we incarnate. We discuss them, if you wanted to say in that way, for the physical plane that we can play out here in 3D reality. So these invisible contracts, energetic bonds, they exist. They exist. They're energetic bonds, invisible contracts with persons in your 3D reality. And I observed a very, very intense contract in my own life experience. And for that I know, if you see this video, this transmission, then it's likely that you are a person that is about to step out of one of these contracts right now in this moment, and I'm talking to you, and you will feel the resonance if this is for you. And the contract is, I thought my love meant walking into your wound with you, and that without doing that, without going and moving into the wound of the other person, that I would be cold or uncaring or less spiritual or not a master or whatever. All of that lies, you see, that this energetic bond is telling you. That's the contract I observed. That if I don't go into the wound with another person, then that means my love is not valid. Feel that for a moment. And feel the pull of that belief, of that bond, of that lie. That just because you don't suffer with another person, you're uncaring and your love is not valid. In order for you to step out of this invisible contract, you have to be the mountain, you have to be in your center, you have to be in the present moment. And no matter what is happening around you in this specific contract that's invisible for you because it is on an energetic basis, being the center is important. Listen. Staying centered doesn't mean that you don't care. That's the breakthrough moment. And I invite you to realize that staying centered, staying in your own light, doesn't mean that you don't care, even if on a programmed egoic basis it seems like, it looks like you wouldn't, but that's just the collective programming that's fear-based anyway. But I want you to train your nervous system, to allow your nervous system to relax into this truth that staying centered, which means relax into the present moment, doesn't mean that you don't care, doesn't mean that you don't love the other person. The exact opposite is the truth right here, you see. Staying centered means I'm not here to validate your wound. I wrote that down and I want to share it with you. Staying centered means I'm not here to validate your wound. If you stay centered in the midst of the storm from this bond with no matter what person it is, if you stay centered, then you don't buy into the program that is activated, that is active in the other person. If you stay centered, it means you're not here to validate the wound, you're here to reflect the wholeness of the other person. Feel into that. You're here to reflect the wholeness that the other person already is in this moment, but because of the program, the person cannot see it, cannot tap into this frequency, cannot become aware of that truth, you see. When you stop running into wounds, you give others the opportunity to walk towards your light, and the important point is by choice. If you stay centered and you stop running into wounds, you give others the opportunity to walk towards your light. You will become the lighthouse in that very moment. When you imagine yourself sitting in the center, surrounded by a big light cycle, and every time the wound of one of those bonds is speaking or screaming or whatever, imagine that while those things come right at you, on the way from that cycle towards your center, they dissolve. And the moment you imagine this, the moment you stay calm and centered in this storm, you're no longer feeding this wound together with the other person. Actually, this is the only effective way to support and help, to stay in your truth, in your heart. Don't try to fix them. Don't even try to help them in some way the ego has learned. Stay centered. Be bold. Be bold. And reflect the wholeness they cannot see in this moment. You are not at home in the wound of another person. That's not your home. Your home is in your heart. Your home is in your heart, not in the wound of another person. And I had some very, very much situations in my life where I come against bonds, and I had to stay very centered and not fall into an old reflex of solving or fixing something, especially with family or in a romantic relationship. To overcome that reflex, to make a different choice, not to fall for it, to keep the peace, the false peace, by the way, it's not truly peace. But if you're really sharing your life with another person, or with all the persons in your life that you interact with, staying in your heart and in your center is the most effective thing you can do for you at first, in the first line, but also for them. So if you see this transmission, you're allowed to no longer go into the wound with another person. You're allowed to break the unseen contract. You're worthy of wholeness. And no matter what person it is in your life you struggle with sometimes, they are worthy too. And it goes against anything we learned of what being a good human or of what help or support really means. It goes against all of that. If you're on an awakening journey and you do this work, which is simply the inner work, people will say to you that you are, I don't know, very egoic. They think you're high, you are somehow above them. That's how the ego perceives when you stay centered. The ego perceives it in a way that it would say you don't care. And that triggers more anger and fear. But staying centered and not feeling the need to make something happen or have someone or something happen in a specific way, you let go. And that's where the power lies. So stay centered. And that's the end of the transmission. I acknowledge your presence. Welcome to the field, to the sovereign field of remembrance. This is Han. Achieve your creeds. Goodbye.